It's now the 7th of June and developments with the porter cabins are being taken away. These cranes cost £1,000 a day to hire. One of the porter cabins has already gone. The other one is in the background there. Electricity supply, of course, has been disconnected. That's the scar in the concrete. Porter cabins originally used generators to power the heating, which had to be on day and night during the winter, and the air conditioning, which had to be on all the time in the summer. And we're not sure how much it cost to connect the electricity supply, but it was obviously well into four figures. It's the last of the porter cabins, the debris. That's a crane. And here we now see the health clinic for the first time in a long time. Here we see it from the front. Crane in the background, and Brookfield surgery next door. Police station there in the background. The last of the porter cabins. Ambulance station there. And fire station. Move at last. These were bought here without planning permission, so it was a bit touch and go for a while if they would be approved, despite the fact that the chairman of the Malden PCT was closely connected to their planning department at one time. But eventually they managed to get a temporary 2-year planning approval. Last cabin is loaded up. So the PCT practice has moved across the other side of the square here, leaving behind the last little bits of the porter cabin. And You may wonder, well, how did this all happen? The PCT practice started in here, in Greenwood surgery, and there was a disagreement, shall we say, and the PCT decided to move out and into the porter cabins. Now, they first of all started saying that I gave them an ultimatum. I told them to leave, and then I pointed out the two problems there. First of all, I hadn't. There was nothing that they could point to gainsay that and prove I had. Secondly, Greenwood surgery was composed of two buildings. This one here, which was leased from the chemist and the dentist, and this one here. And this one I had some jurisdiction over as part landlord, but this one I had none whatsoever over. So the two practices could have split. And indeed I suggested this to Harrison. Later on, when it looked as if it might not get planning permission, they might not get planning permission for the porter cabins, I said, well, okay, if you don't want to split it into the two buildings, split it horizontally. So one practice would have the first floor and the other practice would have the ground floor, going from here right the way round to here. From the outside, first offer the two buildings split, one building to one practice, one to the other, was made to Harrison, and the second offer, the one practice uses the ground floor and one uses the first floor, was made to John Nyland, the chair of the PEC. When I sent the PCT the correspondence demonstrating that they were perfectly entitled to stay in Greenwood surgery, indeed I was encouraging them to do so, they then changed their story and said, will you ask one of the doctors to leave? Which was true. And I said, okay, so you mean all this disruption, all this expense, this vast expenditure of public money, £312,000 they burned through in the first 6 months in the porter cabins, was for one doctor, and then they changed the story back again. So the result of this decision is that after 2 years they've incurred yet more costs, because they've had all the removals costs, the porter cabins were supplied with the furniture built in, so they've had to purchase new office furniture, have that fitted, etc., etc. So this story is yet another one of profligate waste in the health service. It's a small town example of what's going on in the rest of the NHS. And people wonder where all the money's gone. Strange as the situation in South Woodham-Ferrers may be, it could just be that this is a peculiar town with a maverick GP, and that the PCT has really behaved rather well in all other areas. But just up the road in Danbury there's a story with a lot of similarities. This is the Hoppit surgery in Danbury, which closed at the end of last year after a valiant campaign by the patients to keep it open, a Save Our Surgery campaign. They had tremendous support. There were articles in newspapers, they appeared on local radio stations, there were posters in windows, the MP was written to, everything possible was done, and they thought they'd won a reprieve for the surgery.